Hello again, everybody. I am back today. Again, not with my new Henry James video. I got to thinking today that as I'm still in the beginning stages of my channel, I would like to give all of you a little bit more of an idea of who I am. And there's something I wanted to share with all of you, something I share with all of my closest friends, my family, all the people who I really see to be important to me, and all of you are definitely that, very important to me. So, about 3 years ago, I wrote a little piece on hope that I posted on my blog, everyonesopera.com. And ever since then, I've been, whenever I start talking enough to someone, they start sharing with me, I start sharing with them. I share this with them. And I know it's a piece of my own writing, and maybe that's maybe that is a little bit more sharing than people are accustomed to doing. Especially I notice on AuthorTube and on BookTube, people get pretty apprehensive about sharing their work. But this is a very personal piece to me. It was written without any real sense of the, shall I say, artistic merit of the piece, or there really wasn't a sense of anything but just what I wanted at the moment, that day, to say. And so I'd like to read it to you. It's called The Art of Hope, a Message. And, well, let's just get right into it. A quote here by Wilhelm Furtwängler, the conductor. I felt that a really great work of music was a stronger and more essential contradiction of the spirit of Buchenwald and Auschwitz than words could be. Call them what you will, be you an optimist or a pessimist, but hard times are hard times. Say what comes to mind, but there's no more straightforward way to put it, nor can a more eloquent sentiment better explain. Certainly we know hardship now, and that most intimately. All over the internet is recycled in meme or tweet form the fact that life is a cycle of miserable actions with miserable consequences, and with so many downs, it can seem just about impossible for a survivor of the days to stay up. Happiness is the ultimate ideal for many, but it's just another emotion that pulsates in brief moments of our lives, dilating and shrinking as gratification comes and goes. Some say this is why music was written in the first place, to show each of its listeners the tunnel to escape from suffering, societal complexities, and even time itself. Perhaps Debussy's Clair de Lune can escort any one of us to a place where silver light always shines and the hours halt. Yet what is the purpose of such violence as we find and enjoy in Beethoven's Appassionata Sonata? Why do Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto and Gorecki's Symphony of Sorrowful Songs resonate with as many classical first-timers as Debussy's most popular piano piece? And speaking of the light of the moon, what do escapist sounds actually mean for those of us who can appreciate them, whether we know or not? Almost entirely reduced to powder and water upon my first listening of Rachmaninoff's great Adagio sostenuto più animatos, the second movement of his Piano Concerto No. 2, more specifically the arpeggios of the cadenza near the end, I was pushed a little closer to an understanding of something I'd struggled for some time to find as I battled depression, the vile, emotional shadow creature, all too familiar to many. What I heard bloom in the notes didn't come to my ear accidentally. The composer sandwiched the sublime slow piece between two pounding sound creations that spin in their own sorrowful kinds of dances, immersing a listener in overwhelming, albeit delicious, gloom. Having tumbled down the figurative manhole himself, Rachmaninoff had found a helping hand before starting work on this, his first widely acknowledged masterpiece, in physician Nikolai Dahl, whose treatment plan included hypnosis. What Dahl helped Rachmaninoff to discover, or to recover, was not joy. Certainly there would be no Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, or variations on a theme of Corelli, if such an evanescent thing was all he'd gotten out of therapy. Should his creative energy have been sourced in enthusiasm, it would have run out about a decade later. when he was forced from his home country and the way of life with which he'd grown comfortable to the United States, where he'd encountered the same problem he faced upon completing his first symphony, one of the several sources of his former depression, a spectrum of audience reactions to his music that ranged from negative to indifferent. However, he completed the Rhapsody, and the Corelli pieces nonetheless, thus giving his listeners a glimpse into what the Adagio sostenuto builds up to before the final movement of the second concerto strikes the ear, the best that he could write, and thanks to Dahl for providing him with what he needed most to continue on working, to continue on living. Hope. Hope in what? Enrique Goretzky gave clues to the answer in the second and third movements of his third symphony, the Symphony of Sorrowful Songs. On the 26th of September 1944, an 18-year-old girl named Helena, about whom little more than her age and name is known today, was locked in the basement of the Zadopain headquarters of the Gestapo, in cell number 3. In the second movement of the symphony, Goretzky captures the mood of a prayer Helena etched onto one of the walls, which translates roughly, "No, mother, do not weep. Chaste Queen of Heaven, you support me always. Hail Mary." The height of the Third Reich's power was a time of world despair that Helena didn't share, even as she physically deteriorated in an atrium of the Second World War. Where did she place the hope she found? In a possibility. She had accepted the fact that the chances were quite against her survival, and we certainly don't know if she lived to be released when the Gestapo was dissolved a year later. But wouldn't heaven take her in and cradle her mother with assurances both of her peace and absolution in death? This was her thought, and whatever became of her, it carried her through. The same can be said about the mother of the final movement, who laments over her son's death and the fact that she is unable to find him to bury him, but finds light and faith as she prays that he come to know peace among, quote, God's little songbirds. The possibility in which one places hope can mean the difference between productivity and idleness, a sense of purpose or a sense of worthlessness, inner turmoil and solace, sometimes even life and death. For Rachmaninoff, the possibility was success and expansion as an artist and an emotional being. Beethoven's hope was in the possibility of finding purpose, understanding, and love, on which he didn't give up completely after several unsuccessful romantic, familial, and friendly relationships. In the end, it was God, and what friends remained loyal to him, who he accepted as the unconditional representatives of all these very ideas. Such works as the Appassionata Sonata illustrate his search for total acceptance of his deafness and what it represented for him, the deterioration of his physical life, and his uniqueness among his peers, acceptance which led to the composition of the great and, considering his circumstances, seemingly ironic Ode to Joy. For Wilhelm Furtwängler, the legendary conductor quoted above, the purpose was the preservation of the Germany he knew before Hitler, a Germany he believed could be saved with music. Whether one considers any of the possibilities in which these invested themselves and worked to realize minuscule, even naive, the survival of their hope is undeniable. All of this raises the question, which possibilities deserve the most attention? Attempting to answer it concretely would be perhaps somewhat arrogant. However, that which each of us can do in the name of human decency, connection, or awareness is nothing short of vital. For some, this can mean writing a book, composing a symphony, making a movie, starting a blog, or asking a barista how her weekend was, with a willingness to hear the real answer and respond appropriately. Others choose to post Mahatma Gandhi quotes to their Facebook walls over memes insulting ghost followers. To quote Aesop, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. This includes such an escapist contribution to the arts as Claire de Lune. The strongest of hopes wear their power brightly, but even those that begin as dim rays in the dark can grow, be it God, the completion of your inner self, the discovery of your individual purpose, the creation of something beautiful, the change of another's perspective on life for the better, or something else. Find your possibility. There are few weapons with which we as humans are provided to combat the difficulties of this world, but the drive to do something, however small, to improve the quality of the lives around us in some way is our greatest. Stay hopeful. I wrote that, again, 3 years ago. It was 2016. I'm sure many of you know just how difficult the year 2016 was. And we're in the middle of another very hard year. We're living in a very difficult time for the entire world. And so I wanted to share. I just wanted to share, and well, that's a little bit more of I suppose what I'm about. I am about a little bit of hope, and about all of us talking a little bit more to each other, getting to know each other a little bit better, and not being apprehensive about sharing any of the even minutely good things we have. So thank you guys for today, for listening, and I will be back tomorrow. Thank you very, very much for all of your amazing comments again. Thank you guys for being just so great. And again, I will see you tomorrow.